And at number 10, terrible ratings. After everything that happened with Ellen's cancellation in 2020, she thought she would come back on air for her 18th season with an apology and it would all be fine, but that was not the case, and many fans did not accept her lame apology. After a few shows, it was clear that the scandal lost her a large portion of her audience and her ratings were tanking. Apparently over 1/3 of her loyal viewers had stopped watching, which started to become a huge concern for the TV execs. Part of the reason why was that she didn't have A-list guests on her show. There was a rumor that the show was struggling to book high-caliber stars because they didn't want to be seen on her show. After the dismal start, Ellen announced that this season would be her last and she will not be coming back on air for next season. Many think she wanted to quit before she was fired. And at number 9, Drew Barrymore feud. Drew Barrymore and Ellen seem like similar people on the surface, but behind the scenes there is tons of tension, and they are no longer friendly after a big falling out. The two worked alongside each other on a new NBC show called First Dates. Ellen was a producer while Drew was the host, and almost immediately tension started when they had different views on the project. The show was described by the network as a groundbreaking series that would explore all of the simple wonders of a first date. Apparently Ellen expected to be the one calling the shots, but Drew believed she should have creative control because she was the movie star that people were tuning in to see. The show ended after one season, so they didn't have to work alongside each other for long, but it's still a touchy subject. And at number 8, a photo with George W. Bush. Before her main scandal of having a toxic workplace, Ellen was exposed for being friends with former Republican President George W. Bush. Many felt that since Ellen is a vocal Democrat, there's no way she could be friends with someone who holds such different views from hers. Former President Bush was photographed laughing with DeGeneres in autumn of 2019 at an NFL match between the Dallas Cowboys and Green Bay Packers. After a photo of them together went viral, Ellen spoke on her show and tried to set the record straight, telling her audience, quote, "Here's the thing, I'm friends with George Bush. In fact, I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs I have. We're all different, and I think we've forgotten that that's okay, that we're all different. When I say be kind to one another, I don't only mean the people who think the same way that you do." The reaction was very controversial. And at number 7, former bodyguard. After many people came out revealing personal experiences that they had with Ellen, a bodyguard that worked for her at the 2014 Oscars exposed that he had a terrible time working with her that night. Tom Majikak was hired to protect DeGeneres, her mother, and her wife Portia de Rossi as they attended the 86th Academy Awards, which Ellen was hosting. But apparently the experience was very demeaning. He told Fox News, quote, "I'm holding their hands and walking them through individuals and large groups of people. Ellen is the one person that I've been assigned to, and I've been assigned to quite a few celebrities in the past, that has never taken the time to say hi to me." The bodyguard said that Ellen's wife, Portia de Rossi, was very pleasant and kind, and it was really just Ellen that was rude. Adding, quote, "It was very cold and it was very sly, and it was actually kind of demeaning in a way that she treats people other than those who are in her circle." And at number 6, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin is known for getting in feuds with other celebrities, and thankfully she does not hold anything back when exposing how terrible other celebrities can be. Her feud with Ellen has gone on so long that she even trashed Ellen in her book. Griffin even claims she's banned from Ellen's talk show because of their beef. In Kathy Griffin's book she said, quote, "I'm almost positive a certain beloved daytime talk show host once had me kicked out of a backstage dressing room at the Emmy Awards." When describing what this person looked like, Griffin continued, quote, "This person who has short blonde hair has a mean streak that all of Hollywood knows about." Funny enough, the feud started back in 2007 because Griffin did a comedy set where she joked about how mean that Ellen really was. Clearly some foreshadowing. Halfway number 5, Steve Jobs. Thankfully Ellen and Steve Jobs never got into a feud, I guess that we know of, but she did show Jobs just how entitled that she was. A former producer for Ellen's show said that the host once called Steve Jobs to complain about the font sizes on iPhones. Apparently Ellen lost her glasses and wasn't able to read a text on her phone, and she blamed the phone for that issue. The producer added, quote, "She stopped everything and made a call. Next thing we know, we literally hear Steve Jobs pick up and say, 'Hi Ellen.' Ellen told him the iPhone should have a bigger font." The producer added that she's not an evil person, however she is incredibly privileged and doesn't realize that her behavior is not normal. The producer added, quote, "It's not that she's some demon, she just lives in an incredibly privileged bubble and is out of touch with the real world." I wonder what Steve Jobs thought about that call. And at number 4, Brad Garrett. Ellen is beloved by celebrities, so back when she was in the midst of her scandal, very few celebrities had the guts to speak out against her. Thankfully, Everybody Loves Raymond star Brad Garrett shared the truth with his fans. Garrett posted a link to an article discussing the Ellen scandal, and he agreed with the article, claiming her mistreatment of employees was common knowledge. He wrote, quote, "Sorry, but it comes from the top, the Ellen show. No more than one who were treated horribly by her. Common knowledge." Then Back to the Future star Leah Thompson agreed, responding to a tweet from People magazine about Garrett's comment, writing, quote, "True story it is." And at number 3, stole from charity. If you've seen Ellen's show, you know she likes to give stuff away to her audience. But one time she gave away lottery tickets that were supposed to go to towards children's education, and a lot of people were angry. In 1984, California voters approved the state lottery with an understanding that 34% of sales revenue would go towards education, so it was a net good for society. However, on one episode of her show, she gave each audience member $500 worth of these lottery tickets. One whistleblower for the lottery company came forward after, saying the tickets were worth over $200,000, and someone should cover the cost so the proceeds still go to children as intended. Hopefully the show made a big donation after that episode. And at number 2, exposed Mariah Carey. During Ellen's cancellation in 2020, this was a clip that went completely viral because Ellen was using disturbing tactics to get the inside scoop on if Mariah Carey was pregnant or not. Back in 2008, when Mariah Carey came on the Ellen Show, there had been rumors circulating that Mariah may be pregnant. However, instead of respecting her wishes to not mention these rumors or further speculate, Ellen forced her to address it on air. After Mariah would not give her a straight answer on her pregnancy, Ellen decided to bring out some champagne for the ladies. This put Mariah in an impossible position, because if she didn't drink, everyone would know she was pregnant. Despite all of Mariah's refusing to take part in Ellen's game, she was eventually backed into a corner. Mariah then took a small sip from the glass. That prompted Ellen to start shouting that Mariah is pregnant. It turned out that Mariah was pregnant, but sadly, she would have a miscarriage just a few days later. And finally, at number 1, Trisha Paytas. Trisha Paytas has had a ton of experiences with celebrities during her time in Hollywood. Before she became a well-known YouTuber, she decided to go on the Ellen Show to show off her talents for speed reading. It was back in 2010 when Trish was only 22 and was very new to the industry. Paytas spoke about her 2010 appearance on the Ellen Show during an episode of her podcast Frenemies, which she hosted with H3's Ethan Klein, calling controversial help. In that episode, she called Ellen a and said that she wasn't allowed to touch her or look Ellen in the eye. Trish continued on the show, quote, "When all that stuff started coming out about Ellen, I was like, that makes sense because she was so awful. Literally would not talk. They tell you, don't look her in the eyes, don't touch her." And since Trish had a first-hand experience with her, we know it's true.
At number 10, toxic workplace. Allegations of a toxic work environment was the scandal that really started it all. There had been some buzz surrounding how Ellen treats others, whether that be guests on her show or employees, but things really started to pick up when real people started coming forward about how they were being treated while working at the Ellen Show. A number of former employees came forward to expose Ellen for being a horrible boss. Some people brought up how she would use racial microaggressions and how she would pick on each one of her employees. Actor Benjamin Simon came forward with 6 stories about Ellen that showed the world just how mean she really is and how disrespectful she is to her staff. Benjamin tweeted out about how Ellen reportedly has a, quote, sensitive nose and requires everyone to chew gum before talking to her, and will also order people to go home and shower if she doesn't like the way you smell. He also added that Ellen would make a point of picking on a different employee every day, and that when she's in a bad mood, she gets staff members to come to her office and forces them to do comedy bits for her to cheer her up by laughing at them. Benjamin also said that if Ellen doesn't like the monologue that someone wrote for her that day, she will throw it on the floor, refusing to do it. These and countless other stories revealed to the public just how toxic things are over at the Ellen Show, and this first scandal marks the beginning of the comedian's downfall. At number 9, quarantine comments. In April last year, when everyone was stuck inside during the world's first COVID lockdown, a lot of people started working from home, including Ellen DeGeneres. The Ellen Show was being broadcast from her home, and on April 6th, during her opening monologue, Ellen made some comments about her quarantine experience that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. During the episode, Ellen compared her experience of staying in her home to being in jail, saying, quote, "One thing I've learned from being in quarantine is that this is like being in jail. It is what it is. It's mostly because I've been wearing the same clothes for 10 days and everyone here is gay." These comments were not taken very well by the public, and the comedian faced a lot of backlash for comparing her experience of quarantining in her California mansion to living in incarceration, where COVID infections are already incredibly high. Her comments were seen as offensive to those currently living in incarceration because their lives are more greatly at risk because of the infection rates, and a lot of people interpreted her monologue as making fun of those who aren't as privileged to be living in a mansion like she is. At number 8, Hollywood mean streak. After Ellen was exposed for her toxic workplace environment, people started coming forward with their horror stories of the comedian. At first, former employees were jumping on the Ellen is over party trend, but soon some celebrities started commenting on their experiences with Ellen, and a lot of them reminded the public that Ellen's bad attitude isn't anything new. For years, celebrities have known about Ellen's Hollywood mean streak, and some of them have come forward to expose her. Fellow comedian Kathy Griffin has been very outspoken about Ellen's mean streak and even wrote about it in her book, Kathy Griffin's Celebrity Run-Ins: My A to Z Index. In her book, she dished about some awful run-ins that she's had with Ellen, detailing some of the mean things she's done to her. In the book, she wrote, quote, "I can't prove it, but this person who has short blonde hair has a mean streak that all of Hollywood knows about." But it's not just Kathy who says Ellen's mean streak has been common knowledge, as comedian Brad Garrett also chimed in to speak his truth about who Ellen really is behind the scenes. After Ellen issued an apology to her staff members, which we will talk about later, some people weren't buying into this declaration, including Brad Garrett. In response to Ellen's apology, he tweeted saying, quote, "Sorry, but it comes from the top, at The Ellen Show. No more than one were treated horribly by her. Common knowledge." Maybe he was speaking from experience having worked in the same industry as her, or because he had been a guest on her show a few times in the mid-2000s. The fact that he and Kathy, as well as a few other celebrities, called Ellen's mean streak common knowledge really helped prove that it's not just her employees who've had bad experiences with her. At number 7, lockdown layoffs. During the first lockdown the world experienced last spring, there were a lot of changes in many workplaces. Some people were transitioning to working from home, and many others sadly lost their jobs. This was a very uncertain time for a lot of people, including many Ellen Show employees, because of a huge lack in communication. Shortly after the show made their transition from the studio to home, news came out reporting about how Ellen Show employees had been replaced by non-union workers in order to cut down on the cost of paying their other employees. As a result, a lot of employees were left in the dark and without pay for a few weeks, which just angered more people and made Ellen look worse. At this point, she was not only experiencing backlash for being a bully towards her employees, but also for causing layoffs as well as pay deductions. At number 6, racial injustice tweet. At the height of the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020, many celebrities were coming forward to talk about the racial injustices many Black people around the world have been facing. Some of them tweeted about it, others went to protest, but overall, most of them tried to do their part by spreading awareness. Ellen tried to do this, but it didn't go over very well, as many people thought she missed the mark with her BLM tweet. In her later deleted tweet about racial injustice, Ellen said, quote, "Like so many of you, I am angry, I am sad. People of color in this country have faced injustice for far too long. For things to change, we must change. We must commit ourselves to this change with conviction and love." A lot of people didn't like how she used the term people of color instead of just saying Black people, as the movement was surrounding the racism that Black people have endured and continue to endure. After deleting the post, Ellen corrected herself by issuing another tweet showing her support for the Black Lives Matter protests and also pledging to donate to a handful of charities and organizations. At number 5, privilege. While people were still discussing how Ellen was really behind the scenes, the theme of privilege came up and a lot of people called her out for it. After her tone-deaf joke about comparing life in quarantine to life in incarceration, people kept looking for more examples of how she lives such a privileged life. And one person came forward with an example that shocked a lot of people. Back in May last year, a former Ellen Show producer spoke out about how Ellen once called Steve Jobs personally to complain about the font size on the iPhone. This came after Ellen lost her glasses and was having trouble reading the text on her phone. The former producer recalled the incident saying, quote, "She stopped everything and made a call. Next thing we know, we literally hear Steve Jobs pick up and say, 'Hi, Ellen.'" Ellen told him the iPhone should have bigger font. He continues saying, quote, "That's her. It's not that she's some demon, she just lives in an incredibly privileged bubble and is out of touch with the real world." At number 4, apology fail. Following all the backlash that she'd been receiving, when The Ellen Show made its return after a quarantine hiatus, Ellen had to make amends for her actions and had to address some of the allegations against her, like misconduct and workplace toxicity. During her opening monologue, the comedian issued an apology for the things that she'd been accused of, but it didn't really go over well with her audience. During her apology, Ellen admitted that she was, quote, "a work in progress," and that she wasn't aware of the negativity in her workplace. Ellen also joked that she isn't a good enough actress to, quote, "come out here every day for 17 years and fool you." People didn't like how she mostly deflected and made jokes about the situation she was caught in, rather than owning up to her actions, which really just made her look worse in the public's eye and added to her growing criticism. At number 3, Nikki Tutorial's interview. One of the instances that was sort of the fuel for this Ellen is over party fire was YouTuber Nikki Tutorial's testimony about how she was treated after she was invited on the show in January last year. During an interview in March of last year, Nikki spoke out about the atmosphere at The Ellen Show, saying, quote, "The friendly, welcoming atmosphere you see when watching Ellen isn't the reality in the studio. Nikki said that she was expecting a warm welcome when arriving at the studio, but that she was instead, quote, greeted by an angry intern who was a bit overworked. Nikki also told sources that she didn't receive the same VIP treatment as everyone else, saying that she couldn't even use the bathroom closest to her because it was reserved for the Jonas Brothers, who were also on the show that day. She also commented on Ellen's personality, saying that she was very cold and distant when the cameras were off, making for a very different vibe on the show. This was a very different response than people were expecting, so this became big news, which later escalated into a much bigger scandal. At number 2, Dakota Johnson interview. The other incident many people think of as the beginning of the Ellen is Over party comes from actress Dakota Johnson's 2019 interview with the comedian. During the interview, Ellen berated Dakota about the fact that she wasn't invited to Dakota's birthday party, and many people saw this whole debate as incredibly unnecessary and uncalled for. Dakota stood her ground during the interview, shutting Ellen down and not being made to look like the bad guy like Ellen intended, but this also showed how Ellen can sometimes go too far. Fans didn't like the way that the actress was treated during her time on the show, and after Ellen was cancelled, some saw this as justice for Dakota because Ellen was no longer able to get away with behaving like this. And finally, at number 1, Twitter. At the height of Ellen's cancellation, podcaster Kevin T. Porter sent out a tweet asking for people to share their horror stories about the comedian, and he said that he would make a $2 donation to a food bank for every insane story he received. Because of this tweet, a lot of people came forward talking about their bad experiences with Ellen, and this really added most of the heat to Ellen's growing fire. It wasn't just former employees and celebrities who came forward either. Fans and other people who have encountered Ellen off camera were also coming forward to recount some of their horrible experiences with her. Because of the amount of people who tweeted in response to this prompt, it caused this scandal to grow bigger and bigger, painting Ellen to look more and more like a villain, as news sources started picking up on the biggest and most outrageous stories to report on. Kevin's tweet received 2,800 replies, along with over 17,000 retweets and over 70,000 likes. This tweet blew up and made the scandal erupt to become even bigger than anyone thought it would, and caused immeasurable damage to Ellen's career. If it wasn't for this massive attention this tweet got, Ellen's career might not have been as damaged as it is now. Now that Ellen's show is coming to an end and her reputation has been severely damaged, what do you guys think is next for the comedian? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments.
Right off the heels of Ellen's near career-ending scandal, she's back in the news again, and not for a good reason. And I got all the details of what Ellen's just done that is upsetting fans coming up for you right now on Beyond the Screen. What's up everyone, I'm Mackenzie, and let's just get into this really juicy story. After Ellen was accused of being one of the meanest people in Hollywood, and then her show was accused of having a toxic workplace, many people wondered if her show would ever be coming back on air. And even though the horizon didn't look too good for Ellen, her show was renewed. And she started her first episode back with an apology to her fans. And the show has been on air for the last few months, and it seems that the hype around the situation has started to diminish over time. And she might have been starting to, get back on track. But Ellen clearly is trying to make some money from her time off or just refresh her brand, because she just launched a subscription box called the Be Kind box. And side note, I thought she was done with the Be Kind branding. It didn't really help her out too much the first time, but okay. The boxes are sent out seasonally, with them containing Ellen's favorite items that she uses to spread kindness. There are different tiers for the service, but the most expensive one is usually $279.96, but it is now being sold for $251.96. And she claims that there are $200 worth of products in every box, which would make this a pretty good deal. Her most recent fall box contained a painting set, earbuds, collapsible cup, and a gold hope necklace. And even though celebrities like Kris Jenner are praising the box online, many of the fans are incredibly disappointed. They're underwhelmed by the products and irritated by the terrible customer service, with customers taking out their frustrations on the Ellen Shop's Instagram page, with people writing comments like, "My earbuds don't work and I cannot get a hold of anyone," and "I got sent a second summer box instead of the fall box, emailed customer service 4 times, but nobody is responding." And even though there are obviously tons of issues with the contents of the box, Ellen and her team either don't seem to care or they can't respond to everyone that is contacting them about the terrible item. And to add on to this scandal she's currently going through, it seems that the toxic workplace allegations did affect her show's ratings. And apparently her show ratings are currently 38% less than they were this time last year. And with more people at home able to watch her show, That's really bad. So all in all, it's not looking good for Ellen right now, but also she really jumped the gun by releasing this box. Like, if I were on her team, I would have just urged her to, you know, lay low and rebuild her brand over time, not sell a gimmicky box like this, but that's just me. Guys, let me know your thoughts below. Would you ever buy a box like this? And what do you think about Ellen's show now if you've been watching it?